Hi, my name is Christy Brown, and I'm just starting to try and really understand the Salesforce Experience Cloud. We use it differently at my job than what I've ever heard of other people using it. And the more I dig into it, the more I understand the different ways that it can be used. So I wanted to document it for my learning purposes and to also share it with you. So a little bit of my agenda is I'm going to go over the history of the Experience Cloud, talk about the certification, we'll go through some build, and then at the end we'll have study questions. This is actually not going to be done in this one video. It will be broken out into various topics so that you can watch just the topic that interests you. So a little bit about the history. Early 2022, and before, Salesforce used to call this the Community Cloud. They then changed the name from Community Cloud to Experience Cloud. It was called a community, and now it's called a site. And it's more than just a rename. This new platform allows you to boost your communications with people. You can create portals, support centers, forums, websites, smart apps, and do real-time collaboration. So there's a lot more that you can do with it. And if you already have a customer or a partner portal from the prior versions of Salesforce, you're already an Experience Cloud customer. You just need to do the migration to transfer it over and to create a portal. And again, I'm going to walk through some of this. But if you can't remember experience or digital experience once we get in and start building this, you can still type in community and setup, and it's still going to take you to the same stuff that you need to set up this community site. So again, I mentioned earlier that I've seen a lot of companies and people using this Experience Cloud for different things. Straight from the Salesforce website, they say it's the ability for customers, partners, employees to share information and help each other find answers. You can get more of an information and overview at their website. But again, we're going to walk through and we're going to create a portfolio because a lot of people are being told if you don't have experience in Salesforce, you need to create a portfolio to showcase your experience. And we're going to do that, but we're also going to touch on a lot of the other functionality that you can do in Experience Cloud so that you can get some experience using that, even though you probably wouldn't use it in a normal setting. So again, a little bit more about what can you use the Experience Cloud for. You could create a customer knowledge base where customers can come and try and figure out, if they bought a product from you and they're having trouble with it, they can search and troubleshoot for themselves. They can log into their account, they can look at their orders, their invoices, update their contact and their payment information. They can also go into chatter or forums and answer each other's questions. You can set up what they call a gamification where you give them points for answering correct questions or answering more questions. Some companies use this for their employees. Their HR department is going to set it up and use it as a way to onboard and recruit new employees. As an employee, you could also log in and update all of your HR preferences or take any required trainings that you're having to take as a new employee. Your IT department can use it to troubleshoot or collaborate or use it for service tickets. Business partners can offer training and certification. They can do communication with internal and external sales teams. They can showcase products. Resellers, distributors, and partners can collaborate. They can have access to various objects within Salesforce. CPQ is one of the big ones that a lot of the partners will use. Again, we're going to create a portfolio, again, because you want to try and break into the Ohana and you need to showcase your skills and your experience. So that's where we're going to kind of focus. But again, we're going to try and incorporate pieces of all of the rest of them so that you have experience of using them. And then you can actually have guest users that don't even have a login to the system where they can log in and you could provide them various access to objects like records, leads, opportunities. You can create custom objects for them or just allow them to do chatter and communicate with anyone. We'll go through some of the security and licensing and setup again and things that you want to think about in case you don't want to open this up to just anybody without having to have a login. Just wanted to give you a couple examples of different companies that have used this. And again, you can go to this website on the Salesforce side and see a couple of these examples. Here's what a customer community forum would look like, or a product page, or somebody that's trying to help themselves. As we're going through talking about some of this stuff, some of the things that you need to consider before you implement this is, first you need to map out your site, either on, you know, on the computer or on a piece of paper, to show exactly. It's like building a website. Here's all the topics I want to cover. Here's all the features that I want to happen. And just map it out so you make sure that you have built all the pages and have all the components and everything that you need. Also, if you're going to use this as a portfolio, do not build this in a trailhead playground. Those playgrounds do expire, especially if you don't access them frequently. So we're going to walk through and have you sign up for a developer org. That's an org that you can create. It's free, and you don't have to worry about it being erased or something happening to it as a trailhead playground. And then as you're building, if you can have more than one site under an experience, and just remember, if you do that, if you make a change on the homepage and you don't have a page variation, well, again, we're going to talk through some of this wording and terminology and how to set these things up, that when you make that one change on the main homepage, it will affect every other page underneath that. So make sure that you're thinking about some of these things. And again, setting up navigation menus, you can personalize it, you can target audiences if you want it different than the regular navigation menu, but you need to map all this out and think about it. Make sure you have your roles and your access set up correctly. So just because you're a Salesforce customer doesn't mean that you can just automatically roll some of this stuff out. Depending on the functionality that you want to have available on your site, you might have to purchase the licenses. So if you have a customer community or a customer community plus, there's different things that each one of those licenses allow the customer to do. You do have to pay for those, and notice we have the price here. And you're going to see this a lot. In case you don't know, B2C is business to consumer. So it's you dealing with your customer or your customer dealing with you. There's also the partner, which is B2B or business to business. So it could be a distributor and a reseller or somebody, different companies doing business together. So again, it's a business to business relationship. You can also have some external apps available on here, and again, you have to pay for that. So when you're talking licenses, they're going to talk about members and logins. Members are for people who frequently log in and use the community. If they need to log in but they don't do it very often, then you can purchase a login versus a member. And again, these are add-on. The prices that are listed here will change. You have to talk with your Salesforce rep, but this just kind of gives you an idea of the basic pricing and the different types of licenses available. Also, depending on the size of your organization, you might not be the only one that needs to deal with these Experience Cloud sites. So you could set up different roles. So they have an Experience Cloud Site Manager, or an admin, or a builder, or a moderator. So we're going to talk through each of these roles. An Experience Cloud Site Manager would monitor the site engagement. How many people are logging in? What are they doing? Trying to get an idea of how people are engaging the site. They're also going to run reports and dashboards so that they can keep an eye on it and make sure that the activity is what you think it should be, and that basically the site is considered healthy and it's up and running. And they're going to be in there encouraging people to communicate and use the site. And again, we talked a little bit about the gamification, where you can build a point system and a reputation level. They're going to be in there recognizing and rewarding those members. Now, they don't have to actually award it because the system will track it, but they may want to spotlight and say, oh, look, somebody just gained a level or a certain reputation or hit a certain point level. Your Experience Cloud admin is going to be the one that's going to go in and they'll configure the tabs. We're going to talk about branding, whether you want people to be able to log in, set preferences and different settings on the site. Again, they're going to define what are the members, what permissions and access do they have once they get logged in, and set up the navigation, different pages, what topics, what things do they recommend that be available on this site. And they're also the ones that are responsible for user management, site settings, and the maintenance of the site. And again, we're going to go through how to set some of these up and give access, but that's what the Experience Cloud admin will do. And the site builder, of course, is the one that's out there actually going out and building the pages and customizing the layouts and publishing the site. And last of all, you have the cloud moderator. So this is somebody that's in there watching the chat. They're flagging items, or if somebody else flags an item, they're going to review it and make sure that it's appropriate for the site. They can delete it if it's not appropriate, or if something was accidentally uploaded and shouldn't have been. And this can be somebody an employee in your organization, or you could actually open this up and have somebody outside of the organization be a moderator. All you have to do is give them a moderator permission. So we talked through the different roles. And again, if it's a big organization, you can have multiple people doing each of these roles. If it's a small organization, you may be doing all of them. But Salesforce does have a couple of guides out there on the user guides and the manager's guides of different things of how to set up these portals, how to manage them, different things that you can do. So you would just go to the website and read those guides. And they're very long. I mean, they're over 100 pages long. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the examination. Not everybody's going to want to get certified, but this is another way, once you have your admin certification, that you could learn something specialized and maybe have a certification that not as many other people have, and it's something that you could offer on the side, or that your company may want you to do. So again, the certification exam is scenario based. It's going to question you about licensing, configuration, setup, security, access control, knowledge, reputation, recommendations, and more. So let's talk through each of these specific sections and the percentage on the exam. So just the basics will be 8%. So why would you create, or how would you utilize one of these? They're going to give you a specific case scenario and ask you, what you would do. Everything in Salesforce, they talk about personas. They're going to have you identify common personas for the Experience Cloud. And when would you create a specific type of site for them and some of the functionality that they should be using. Also the types of external accounts and how you would use those in the digital cloud experience. And they're also going to do different features and functions within the workspace when you're building it. What can you do with different things in that workspace? A large percentage of it is going to be on sharing, visibility, and licensing. Because again, Salesforce is very security driven, and they want to make sure that you understand when you're giving access to these users, what are you giving them access to, and what can and can't they do in your system. So again, they're going to give you a scenario, set the correct user visibility, want you to set the correct object visibility. Again, they're going to talk about declarative sharing options, how you can use those. They're going to give you a scenario about external account relationships and how would you implement that. If somebody gave you a set of requirements, what kind of external licenses would they need to be able to meet those requirements? Or if they give you a scenario, what security model would you use? And then again, describe roles for those external users, the people outside of your organization. So I think some of the more fun items, 15%, the branding, personalization, and content of your site. So they're going to talk about modifying it. What can you modify? If you make modifications, what would happen to certain things? Again, if you add the ability to search within a site, what are those capabilities, and when and would you want to be able to allow it, and why would you not want to allow searching within your digital site? We talk a lot about the CMS content. And then again, they're going to have a scenario where they talk about should an article be visible or accessible to this particular person who's logged in. 10% is going to focus on templates and themes, the pre-built items that are out there for you to choose. So again, if they say, hey, we want to set up a place where our customers can come and log issues with us, well, then you would say, oh, that would be a customer service theme, something that deals with cases. And so you would just choose that appropriate theme. And again, What template should you use? Talk about packaging, exporting, and importing templates in case you want to use some that aren't standard. And then there's lightning bolts. What can you do with lightning bolts in your digital site? Back to creating users and having how they authenticate in the system. That will be 13%. So how can you create users? Manually, data loader, self-registration, just-in-time provisioning. And again, if they give you a scenario, how would you set up that user with the proper authentication? Talk about single sign-on options. And there's different ways if they're a partner versus a customer. How do you enable or create users for those particular experiences? And then again, how do you identify when you grant users access to experience? Where are you going? How are you doing that? And how do you disable them? Everything's fine and dandy and you've built this wonderful site, but what if nobody's using it? So how do you measure the adoption? How do you analyze it? That's going to be 5% of it. So we're going to talk about setting up dashboards and insights to monitor that and analyze a lot of the features that are being used. And again, it's scenario based. So they're going to talk about best practices for how you get people to adopt and engage in these sites. And the last portion, the largest portion, 25%, administration, setup, and configuration. So again, they're going to focus on partnership relationship management and how you implement that. Again, the different ways to deploy and migrate these experience sites. How do you enable and activate a site? And again, talking about delegating external users and things that they can do. Again, talking through how do you set up and build from beginning to end, or how do you configure it, how do you set up topics, how do you do tickets or Service Cloud object functionality within the system. We can't forget 7% is the customization considerations and limitations. So again, what are some of the limitations that you're going to experience when you try and roll out some of these digital experiences? All right, we've gone through the most parts of the exam. So let's talk through, we're going to now in the next video start building a portfolio. But again, before you build, you need to map it out to make sure you're covering everything that you want to do. So this is, again, not typically what you would do in a portfolio. We've added a few things just so that we can show some added functionality so you have a little bit extra experience. So there's always going to be an About Me page because they want to know who you are. And then they want to know what certifications you have, whether it's Salesforce or not. We're going to have a certifications page to talk about those. What's your experience? Doesn't matter what your prior experience is. Everything you've done throughout your life, you can draw and build on the experience to help you in the Salesforce role. So we're going to cover that under the experience. You should be building some projects, whether it's in your own developer orgs, or if you're participating in a Talent Stacker program, or you're volunteering at a nonprofit, or you're in the Click to Experience. You need to put all of those projects out here on a project so that they can see you are out there gaining experience and knowledge and growing. I always like to have a resource page. It's mainly here to show you different links, ways that you can link to other websites or add YouTube videos or different things to a site. So that's what we're going to use resources for. We're going to have a reports tab just so it can show you there's a couple different ways that if your site has Tableau and you use Tableau reports, that you can display those reports to your customers. You can have them just as a static report where they can just view it, or if you want to give them access, they can have a dynamic view where they click on it and they can drill down and see more information. And we're going to have a resume section just because I want to show you there's kind of a cool way that you can use tasks to upload files so that your clients can see those on the digital experience site. So if you send out resumes to different companies, they talk about building a job tracker app, and you can do that. And you could also incorporate this task into that app. But we're just going to show you real quick how to add tasks and upload your resume to track them here. Another big thing used in sites is a knowledge base. So we're going to create a few knowledge base articles. And then chatter, because you want people to be on your site communicating and talking with each other. So we're going to set up chatter functionality. So thank you for joining.